Hi, everyone. I am so excited to do this very short, we're going to aim for a half an hour interview with the lovely Katrina Prescott. I want everyone to say hello to Katrina. Katrina, say hello to everyone.
Hello to everyone.
So how I met Katrina was I had Avis from CTV, Avis Favaro, who's amazing, reach out to me to give commentary on these caregiver videos. And I said, what videos? So she sent me this link to these videos. And I cannot even tell you the squeal I let out when I saw these because they were just so amazing that I had to reach out to Katrina, who is the genius behind these videos. And when you talk to her, you realize why they were done so well, because they were done from a former caregiver, and nobody understands and could really create videos as effective as this unless they lived this themselves. And I just am so happy to be able to talk to her so I can share this information with everyone and get this out there. These videos need to be shared widely. People need to watch these and, just really understand ways that we can better approach the millions of caregivers that surround us. So I want to introduce Katrina and just have her kind of tell us a little bit about how did this start? How did these videos come about? Tell us your story in 10 minutes.
In 2 minutes, go. Okay, so they were actually, so it's myself and my producing partner, Jessica Fraser, that kind of came up with them. And another friend of ours, actually, Sonia, was having some experience with this too in her world. And I can't fully remember because I was caregiving at the time, but what I do remember is that after my mom died in 2022, and people would come up to me and just say things that just didn't feel good, things that maybe are things not to say, such as you must be so relieved, or things like that, and she's in a better place, and some of those things just well-meaning, but people just don't really know what to say, and those things left me feeling bad. I don't know that I'm relieved that my mother lived through young onset dementia diagnosis and then subsequently died after she just turned 71. I don't feel relieved by that. And so it got us talking more about it, and then we developed it, and here we are.
And I think that was what really stood out to me is we'll share at least one of the videos for everyone. We might do 100 more of these talks. We've decided that Katrina even named what a possible podcast for us too could be called. What can it be called, Katrina?
Dr. V and KP.
I love it so much.
More, let us know in the comments.
So just to preface this, we literally only met yesterday, and this is how quickly we have become fast friends, because you tend to find when caregivers meet other caregivers, there's an immediate bond. And I adore her. I am so happy to be able to share these videos. There were 7 videos, and I mean, just the quality of these videos. I mean, you hired professional actors. These were serious videos. This is your job. You are a producer. This is what you do. And you can tell by watching these that a lot of work and a lot of time and energy went into these. And I think what really stood out for me, and the first thing I said to Avis when we were talking for the story, which by the way is airing right now, and I'm like trying to look over to the TV because I'm recording it. But the story will air tonight. The digital story is up, but then there should be a video. And one of the things I said to her is I think there's a lot of well-intentioned advice that people offer, oftentimes not realizing that it can be really hurtful and just kind of miss the mark. And we know that we all are aware that it's coming from a good place, but the effect is that it tends often to make us feel worse. And I think that's what is really highlighted in these videos are things not to say, right? The whole series is things not to say to a caregiver, because people, I don't think, realize, unless you've lived it, how these things maybe land a different way. And I think the way you really imbued comedy on something so serious is a way to really lend mass appeal to very difficult conversations. And I can't speak highly enough about these videos. So how long did it take you to create this whole series?
Oh, okay. Well, I can't remember. I mean, what year are we in now? 2025?
Yeah.
We started, I mean, I can't remember when we applied to do the pilot, but I mean, it's somewhere between, it's over a year, maybe towards a year and a half from application, conception, applying for the funding for the pilot, getting the pilot, writing the pilot, shooting the pilot, all the things, and then finding out if we're going to series. I think that we found that out late last year. I really have no concept of time. I'm sorry, but I mean, a lot of time and a lot of work does go into making this type of content, and it's worth it because we believe that humor can really be supportive in this really challenging topic matter where a lot of the content can, and I'm not putting that content down. It's probably very reflective of what our lived experience is. And, also how can we show another way and use humor instead of maybe a womp womp or a finger wag, we'll just be a little bit blunt and on the nose about it and have a Carrie godmother do it for us, right?
Just brilliant. I have to pull one of them up because it's like a teaser, and I want everyone to run and watch the rest of them after. But let me pull up the story because I know Avis's story has the link in it. So let me pull up this, and hopefully I'll be able to share this. This is okay. Hold on, I'm gonna find this. It's like I've learned how to use
it's amazing
the first time. Yeah, I know, right?
And then the screen sharing and the whole thing.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm hoping this is going to show up. So this is a story where you can find it. Oh, it's something can't open picture in picture right now. Try again. Oh no, I can see it there. And obviously you can see, I love how the internet stalks you. You can see how I was looking at black and white ribbons there. So like now everywhere I look, there's ribbons because apparently now I love wrapping around the holidays. Gifts. I'm a big wrapper.
I love that. We can deep dive that too.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said there. So here's a story: things not to say to a caregiver. So this is the Prince story, and there are you with your mom,
and at the top was Jess and I.
Yes, Jess. I don't know Jess, but bravo to her, obviously her as well. Okay, so here is the first of this series. So there's 7 videos. You have to watch them all, but I'm going to show you this one.
I was like, guys, this is my birthday party. Shouldn't somebody else be planning this?
Ugh, we finally managed to book this like glamping place in Tofino. There were so many bugs, but I did get us a dinner resi at Blue Rhino and I looked super cute.
After we hit up this new club, baby.
You would have loved it. Sunday, I just like slept all day. Ugh, it was such a peaceful sleep too. Really needed it.
And can you believe Mindy bailed on our shopping trip?
I mean, it is not the first time this has happened. I feel like I can't even rely on her anymore.
There is this super cute guy at hot yoga, and I am pretty sure he has been checking me out.
Any poodle. What's up with you, girlie? What have you been up to?
Seriously, this? Taking care of my mom.
Right. Yeah. Of course. You need to take care of yourself, huh?
Okay, crisis intervention.
Who the are you?
I'm your fucking Carrie godmother. You need to take care of yourself. Classic thing not to say to a caregiver. What most people don't know is caregivers never intend not to take care of themselves. There's just little help, which leaves little time for anything else, as you can see. So instead of saying things that aren't actually helpful, why don't you try doing something that actually is? Shall we?
Oh, gross. Is this dirty laundry?
Hop to it.
Okay, I'm hopping, lady. I'm hopping. Gross. Can I help with something?
I don't know. Can you? Okay. This just needs to simmer. Excuse me.
Oh, honey, you know what? Why don't you go take a shower?
I have things to do.
I will do the things and you go do the bathing. Go. Go, go, go. You deserve it. Get cleaned up. I will soup.
Dishes.
Dishes. Good call. Yeah.
You scrub it.
Rub it.
Yeah. Sometimes well-intentioned phrases can cause unintentional harm. Lending a helping hand never does.
Oh, I love it so much. Oh, there are no words. Oh
I'm glad.
I don't even know what to say. As soon as I saw it, my heart just exploded because it's like, of course, every caregiver knows that we're neglecting ourselves and we feel, and I shouldn't speak for everyone, but I'm speaking for me and we've talked a little bit before this chat that you know you're neglecting yourself. You feel it. You hear your friends telling you all the fun things that they're doing and that you feel left out of often or can't do because you don't feel like you can leave your loved one. I mean, I think a lot of caregivers have felt those experiences. And of course, your friends are just trying to, keep in touch with you and keep that normal pre-caregiving relationship up. But things have changed during caregiving. So
Yeah.
that's why these videos are so important because, of course, we know that we're neglecting ourselves and we wish we had time to do more for ourselves, but we can't. And that is just the nature of many of these caregiving roles, right?
100%. I mean, that was really my lived experience. This is based on me, as the caregiver and as a caregiver coach for caregivers. I'm also a bit of the care godmother, right? But it's,
yeah, you are.
but I really, I would hear that a lot, you need to take care of yourself. Well, yeah, I never intended to not take care of myself. My mom was a 24/7 care, could not be left alone. And I had 27 hours of help a week. So, how does it work? Make it make sense. And so when people would say this to me, it felt a little insulting because of what I'm not trying to not take care of myself here. There's none of that. It's the demands of caregiving and the very limited resources that are available are not supporting me to take care of myself. And I think that was really hard for people to understand. When mom was diagnosed, everyone thought there was more help available. Well, can't you just get help? Can't you just get more help? We did another episode on that. But it's not that cut and dry. It's financial barriers. It's barriers to finding people. There's so many things, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's wild because, and this is something that every caregiver who has tried to get more care or is relying on the home care that is provided by their province realizes very quick that even the provincial funded home care plans are just woefully underfunded, and the care provisioning is problematic, to say it nicely. I hear issues with the home care that is provided, and the majority for-profit agencies that tend to dominate these sectors, and the issues with the workers that are not being provided proper training and proper pay, and then there's a lot of absences, and it's just the continuity of care is not there. Right.
100%.
I see your face. So,
yes.
And I remember, and you kept your mother out of long-term care and you were being pushed to put her in long-term care like many people in your situation would be. But you had previous experiences with long-term care. So you knew that you were going to try everything you could to keep her at home. And but that obviously had a lot of sacrifices for your work, for your, everything. Right. And I remember I gave an interview for the Ontario Long-Term Care Commission. So I testified ahead of that. And part of it was, telling people I was asked to discuss the caregiver lens for that testimony. And I remember saying, well, families obviously did not want to keep their loved ones in that situation. But one woman who did take her loved one out, it cost in like 3 months, almost $30,000 to get private care to provide the care that you were effectively providing round the clock yourself. with the 27 hours you were given a week by, your province. You're in BC. So everyone know she's in BC. So every, province has their own different rules, their own different healthcare sectors. But so she had the maximum, which would have been the 27 hours. And it's just not feasible for a lot of people, especially when you probably had to take a lot of time off work and you're not getting an income coming. How could you afford to then hire $30,000 worth of private care?
You don't have it. Yeah, it's a real challenge. Because I'm a freelancer and I work from home, that was somewhat doable. And a lot of my people that I work with knew and supported my decision. So I used to drive around 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day with my mom in the car, because that would entertain her, and do work calls, pull over, do emails. It was pretty insane when I look back on it, how we managed to get through that, mom and I don't really know if I would have the energy to do that again. I'm a pretty high energy person, and that took a lot of creative problem solving and a lot of energy. And I really didn't sleep for years. Yeah. And I mean that. I did not sleep. It was really, really brutal, which brought, people back to this kind of thing, not to say, of course, people were worried about me. But just saying, you need to take care of yourself, that wasn't helpful, right? It made me feel worse, because then I knew that they could see that I didn't look well.
Yeah, you're like pretty much telling you look terrible. My gosh, like thanks.
I have great friends, and one of my friends she started to sleep over a couple nights a week with mom. So then I started sleeping a bit, right? But even that, just because she was there, it doesn't mean I can just turn off. There's all these residual things, because I don't want her to be uncomfortable. There's just so many layers to it.
I know.
But this is what it is, right? And this is why this series is just kind of like a conscious communication tool, right?
Yeah. Because it's such a emotional and sensitive area that people often get awkward talking about these things and don't really know how. So of course they say all the cliches, like in your other videos talk about this, like, oh, you're such an angel, everything works out the way it's supposed to, you'll get through it, and all of these things that when all we really want oftentimes is some help. Like the little tips, like just go bring them a coffee, help them do meal prep. I remember feeling, and when I talk to caregivers, right, my people, intensely lonely and frustrated. And I just, when my friends would be like, okay, well, do you want to go out and do something? I'm like, can you come here? I can't, I don't feel comfortable leaving. Can you just come here? Right. And sometimes you just want to have to ask for it, or you didn't want to have to say. So these videos are like telling people those little strategies, just something as simple as, I'm going to come bring you a coffee or your favorite dessert, or do you want help with meal prep? Because, if we're doing a lot of meal prep for the week, or, I remember once I kept having to cut pills in like quarters for my grandpa. And it that was like, I'm like, I would love to have someone here while I'm doing this, and we can chat while I'm mind numbing pill cutting, like things like this. Right.
It is that. And that worked for me. I had friends that would just come over and do that. And I really appreciate that. And then I did have friends that, like I said, would sleep over, and, people don't know what to say. And I had no knowledge of dementia before mom. I didn't know anything. I'm sure I've been a person who said many things not to say, right? Like I learned because I made those comments first, right? And then I could start to digest them and change. And I know that nobody's doing it intentionally. Well, I think that I know that. And this is just a helper for caregivers to, feel recognized, maybe understand that what they're feeling is valid too, if they are having those feelings, instead of feeling guilty for feeling angry about a comment. It's like, okay, Susan didn't mean that. Now I feel bad that I felt that way. okay, just cancel, clear, and upgrade the whole thing. Like all the things can be true at once, right? So this series really allows for caregivers to be validated and met where they are. And it shows people who are interacting with caregivers a couple of options of like, oh yeah, okay. And maybe that's supportive for them too. And it's wins for everybody.
Yeah, it's just I love it so much. And I think, was it your last video, the 7th video? Was that the one that talked about you're not an angel? Is that because, and
Yes.
I'll admit, I say that to people too. And I should, but I'm also aware, and I think this, I do, please watch all the videos. But that video also really hit home how and I don't want to say the dark side of caregiving, but there is an emotional dark side, right? And you have these moments, and caregivers don't want to say these things, but where you wish your life was different, and you hate what you're going through. You love your care receiver, whoever it is, obviously so much, because not everyone opts to do this because it is so difficult and so lonely, and the costs that come with this, the care burden is off the charts, and people don't talk about this enough. And so there's that part of me that's like, yes, I do believe that you are a godsend angel for what you're doing. But at the same time, I know the guilt of those thoughts and those feelings and having those emotional outbursts, even yourself, right? Like your video talked about how, like, you know, throwing something against the wall or having like that moment of, which every caregiver I'm sure can feel, those when you snap almost in a way, right?
You do. And that episode's also about me. That is my personal story. Again, same actors as the pilot. And my mom is also in that episode. But it, you know, I would hear that a lot. Oh, your mom's so lucky to have you. You're such an angel. And you know, the reality is that my mom and I had a very fraught relationship, and I didn't just waltz into this with, oh, great, can't wait to manage incontinence that I didn't understand. Like it wasn't a smooth angel vibe at all. So when I don't feel like that, like I don't feel like I'm an angel for taking care of my mom. So when I heard that, I felt like it was also discounting her role in it. You know, like she also would have cared for me, right? Like if the roles were reversed, that's my mom. She did do that for me when she was raising me.
Yeah.
You know? And I also felt like, you know, my mom let me provide her with that care. You know, and learning from being a caregiver is really solidified who I am as a person, right? Just having that experience, I really grew into myself. And it's just such a gift from my mom. And really, I feel like my mom is the angel for giving me that gift. And God, my mom, I just feel like sacrificed so much for me. So I just don't, I don't resonate with that. And also I just wasn't perfect by any stretch.
And no caregiver is, no caregiver
no
is.
caregiver is.
And they make mistakes. There are things that, and like, I'll never forget too, in my experience, like there was one time you know, in the middle of the night when, you know, my grandma was at home first, and like I had moved into my grandparents' condo to be closer to them but on a different floor and to help and really, you know, and of course I got the call at one point in the middle of the night that she had fallen off the bed, my grandpa. So I ran upstairs, and I didn't have proper training on how to lift. This is, you know, I was like you, I was I was in my like early 30s, maybe I was 30 at the time. And I accidentally injured her. And I can't even tell you the guilt I still feel to this day. And that's also why I have reticence when people are like, oh, just pay family to do this. Like, this is skilled work. This is work that requires significant training, because I myself have a freaking PhD. At that point, I was PhD candidate. I was in training, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I accidentally hurt my grandma. And I still think about that, and I feel awful. She wasn't mad. She knew it was an accident, but and it's all of these feelings.
And then we have to carry that, right?
Yeah, we do.
And by not having proper help from the system, how much extra do we carry? And then how much does that challenge or add to the stress of the relationship between the caregiver and the caree. There's just so much going on here.
Yeah.
We can talk about it for days. And we
I
might.
know. I said to Katrina, I'm like, I have to put a timer on because I will talk forever. So we're at like 25 minutes.
I want to.
I know we're at 25 minutes. We're like, we need to do like part 1. This will be part 1. So we'll try to at least make it more manageable because it's a Friday night. I know some of you have plans and are actually having a life. And so we're gonna 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes.
Okay, 5 more minutes.
So one thing I have to talk about is that Katrina, and I just to hit home that she started caregiving pretty early. You could tell she's got that beautiful young fresh face. You know, she's younger. And when we think of caregiving, you know, and the lion's share of caregiving is done by adult women, often caring for their older adult mothers and grandmothers and fathers and parents, right? So that is the lion's share of reproductive care laborers, unpaid family caregivers. It always has been, but there are increasing numbers of different cohorts of caregivers that have to step in. And what I was talking about, Katrina, before the talk is that was my whole doctoral education, was being a young adult caregiver. And it made me want to focus on younger people who provide care, because it was such a caregiving is caregiving. We all can identify as caregivers, shared experiences, but there are definitely generational and cohort related differences. And when we were both also young adult caregivers, and you know, there's that very different experience you have when you're at that part of your life where you're still trying to like build your career and build your social network. And you know, in my research, you know, I've talked to kids in high school, you know, early teens and teenagers. And Katrina had mentioned she started, when she thinks about it, that she actually caregived as early as 7 years old, right? You started caregiving for your grandmother.
My grandfather lost his vision and I was his eyes.
Yep.
You know,
and that is another cohort of caregivers that has been completely ignored by the system. When you think of the caregiver, you know, credits we have now, they're largely like tax-based credits for working adults, because that's the assumption that these are all, and it is the majority of caregivers, but we have over 1 million young adult caregivers under the age of 25 in Canada, and that's only enumerating the ages of 15 to 25. We don't even know how many more are younger than 15 doing this work, and I'm imagining it is a lot. So we are woefully underestimating the number of caregivers we have, and especially when they're younger and they're in this very transitional phase of trying to build their social and, you know, emotional and financial capital for their future to sustain them in their older age. We really need to think about better supporting not only, you know, of course, the adult, often women caregivers doing this, but also the younger generation that are starting to have to help their parents, because often those parents are working and can't necessarily help with the grandparents, for example. And we
100%.
see all these dynamics that are often hidden. So, you know, and even me and Katrina are talking about, you know, this is our next little project. And if anyone out there has funding and wants to fund and help, and there's a donation link, Katrina has a donation link, I'm going to share that for her doing this work, right? Because it's very hard to get this work funded. And I'm in the process now, I'm trying to find some funding so that we can do videos like this for the younger generation of caregivers, because, and Katrina said she'd even thought about that. She wanted to do it. But obviously there's only so much you could do. You had the funding from TELUS, you had time limits, and but this is why we were meant to meet 100%. And we were meant to now do this next step. So I just think that share these videos with everyone you can. Know that there are many ideas and people are starting to brainstorm how we can even, you know, scale up these videos, because it's just such a smart way to get information out there that is funny but lighthearted, but also serious. And I think that's the best way to get uptake, because sometimes it can be really heavy material and people are so stressed out with everything that's happening in the world that they almost don't want to deal with another heavy thing. So if we can approach it with comedy that you've done so beautifully, I really think that will land in a much more, you know, effective way.
I feel like people are ready for this type of perspective, and it's just so much easier to digest, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, to young caregivers, even in the pilot, tried to go a little bit younger to represent me in my 30s, you know, when this was popping off.
Exactly. And I could not identify more because I was also in my 30s. Like I turned 30 when it all started. And I remember yeah. So a lot of us can identify these videos. I think a lot of the, especially young adult caregivers or people transitioning from, young adult into full adulthood, not like there's a specific age marker that, differentiates the two cohorts.
Right.
But, it's definitely, it hit home, especially with the club talk and all these vacations and all these things that I wish I could have done at that time too. And I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And and all the coulda, woulda, shouldas, right? So
it's a lot. It's a lot. And your life really 180s overnight, and it's a challenging adjustment.
I am so proud that we actually kept it to 30 minutes. We did it. So of course, I'm going to stay behind and talk to this lovely lady for a little bit. But everyone at home, please, I'm going to set a bunch of links when I post this, all the videos and any other information you need to know. And please share them as widely as you can, because I just really think you never know who might be suffering around you and doing this and maybe just doesn't have the bandwidth to even talk about it with you because they're just so overwhelmed with what's happening at home. And being able just to have somebody say, can I bring you a coffee? It's these little things which will make such a difference in the lives of caregivers, and just that offering tangible, helpful, suggestions. You will be doing such a kindness to every caregiver out there. So please share these widely. Thank you so much, Katrina. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being a fan and hosting me and the show. And, we really make this content for caregivers. We're not making it for our whatever profile. And the way that it can actually help people is if people see it, right? So I really appreciate that you're helping to spread the word.
I am so honored. So, okay. Thank you so much. We're going to be back. I bet we're going to have more of these talks. So I'm going to stop the recording now. And thank you so much again, everyone at home. Please go watch them now. Bye.